Just started recording.
And have our attendees arrived?
We have Lindsay in the chat right now. Hello, Lindsay. Welcome, welcome.
And there's Barbara. Welcome, Barbara. So Paul, do you want to go ahead and, I guess, welcome people, and we'll get started just in the interest of everybody's time?
I think that's exactly what we'll do. So, hello, everyone. My name is Paul Meck, and I'm the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Association for Middle Level Education. We are so pleased that you have joined us this evening. One of our newest partners this year is Mastery Coding, and we are so happy to have them along with us tonight to talk to us a little bit about esports, which is certainly something that's a hot topic, especially in middle level schools. So thank you to Eastern University, who is our host of our webinars and with their webinar platform, and Kelly and Diana, our grad assistants who are here helping us this evening. So welcome, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Gail Heinemeyer.
Okay, thank you, Paul. We're glad that folks have joined us this evening. We have an exciting presentation that perhaps some of you may have gotten a taste of if you were at our state conference just a few weeks ago. And if you missed that, you're kind of in for a treat because you're going to get some one-on-one attention with this. We have a great team from Mastery Coding that is here to present tonight's program. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rich from Mastery Coding.
Thank you so much, Gail. I'll go ahead and grab the screen here. And you all should be able to see that. I believe that Angie will be able to introduce us a little bit here today.
Yes, hello, and thank you again for having us tonight. We're all really excited to be a part of this. Esports is something that we're all very passionate about seeing in the classroom, so so excited to be here tonight. I'm Angie Eisen, and I am the Computer Science Education Specialist for Mastery Coding. And then Rich, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Rich Conti, Director of Academic Esports here at Mastery Coding.
And then we've got our famous coach, Ben.
Hi there. My name is Ben Posada. I am an esports curriculum developer and also the Assistant Director of the Academic Esports program at Mastery Coding. And I'm really excited to be here with you guys. I hope some of you may have come by and seen our booth or our actual talk at PAMLE. This was such a fun time. And with how well it went, we wanted to try to do something a little bit similar today and get you guys engaged.
All right. So one thing I wanted to bring up, there are, because it has become so popular, like Paul mentioned, there are a lot of options out there. And so why would you want to come to us for academic esports? And I will tell you, as a mother of a 13-year-old, this part is very important to me. We are an education company that's come to esports. So we were founded by Alan Satomer. He was actually a California Teacher of the Year, and he found the need to find a way to meet kids where they are, use this passion that they already have for gaming, and now we are able to bring academic value behind it. And that's exactly why you would want to use mastery coding.
Thank you, Angie. Really quickly, a little background on myself is that I loved gaming all my life. And particularly, I really enjoyed understanding how the games worked and sort of deconstructing them. That led me down a path to go to school for game development and game design. And so that's what I ended up getting my degree in. But while I was at college, an esport called Overwatch came out, and I was pretty good at it. So I picked up some experience in starting an esports team and running a successful esports team through that experience where we competed in different collegiate leagues. But sort of coming full circle is once I started working here at Mastery Coding, it was initially developing game design and development curriculum to teach students how to code. And that was very successful. And I believe that one of the best ways to learn how to code is through developing games and designing games, because it is such an interactive medium that the students are already doing, right? But we can go one level further and we can get students into game development and into coding by meeting them where they're at, as Angie mentioned, in the gaming itself. And so that's how we developed down below here. You see what we call the gamer to maker pathway. Whereas if we can meet students where they're passionate about and sort of spark that curiosity on how it's working behind the scenes, we can lead that into education, and not only certification and careers, but also education in the realm of social emotional learning and developing the players and the students as individuals. So that's a little bit of our philosophy and why we approach esports so academically. But with that all being said, I think we'll get over to the sort of main featured event for today, which is going to be Esports Jeopardy. And in order for this to work, we do need some interaction from chat. And Gail, Paul, Kelly, if you guys would like to choose categories as well, we can get kicked off here. If there's any sort of selections in terms of category and then points, just feel free to drop that into chat and we can get going with some questions. Name that game for 100.
Yeah.
All right. So this popular multiplayer racing game features turtles, princesses, plumbers, and many more characters all vying for first place. Any thoughts on what video game this could be?
So
A guess in
Lindsay.
chat, which is really close.
So
Yep.
close. Missing one word. The key word and the question here being racing game. There we go.
Very nice. Mario Kart. Great job, Lindsay.
Love it. So our answer is, what is Mario Kart? And one of the things I love about this game is that this was one of the first games, and it is more of a game than an esport, but it's one of the first games that moved from just being kids playing games, having fun, kind of goofing off in their spare time, to this becoming a full family activity. And this being something that you'd see like parents get into, you'd see the siblings competing at. And this brought a lot of interactivity to people's homes when this started hitting the markets and becoming popular. And I will say this got popular a while ago. This has been around since 1992. I was amazed when I saw that because I didn't play this when I was a kid. But when I saw how long this has been around, how long it's been affecting people and helping games bring people together, it kind of astonished me. And it made me feel really great about seeing the positive sides of games and how they can really bring families together and be that communal activity.
Absolutely. Nice job, Lindsay. Well done.
Okay, do we have another?
I will say we will need help to be able to run this and have a good time with it. The more that we
That's
have
right.
guesses from everybody.
Okay, we've got Gamerisms for 100.
100. This term in gaming is used to refer to characters in a game that are controlled by a computer and not by a player. Bot is good. That's close.
We do hear that one a lot.
Looks like Kelly's got it.
Yep.
We have it. These are, what is an NPC? An NPC stands for a non-playable character. And these really helped move us towards the games that we see nowadays, where they become really popular because there's these parts of the games you have to interact with and you have to figure out, and they're difficult. And so much of that learning the game is part of what's moved games from being these kind of hobbies and these activities that people would do for fun to something competitive, because they'd have to learn a system. And they'd learn how to master that system. And all of a sudden, it started getting so competitive. How many people started learning it that there were these little intricacies that people would have to figure out one piece at a time. And a lot of this has come from the development of AI or artificial intelligence and how we use that in games and how they've become part of esports. So there are still a couple of esports out there that are NPC lists. They're all player characters, but a lot of the most competitive ones actually have a ton of different NPCs in the game that you as a player have to figure out, how do you navigate between them and how do you take advantage of these attributes that are static in the game? They're non-changing because they are computer controlled, as opposed to these dynamic things, these dynamic variables that are all controlled by playable characters, by the actual people involved in the games. So we see in esports that there's these kind of two factors. There's the static and the dynamic. There's the what is controlled by the game, and we call that something that is called macro, and what's controlled by the player, and we call that our micro. And these are the two biggest attributes of getting better at a game that you can have in any esport. And a lot of them boil down to how you manipulate the NPCs and how you go off of these things with the NPCs.
Thank you, Ben. And nice job, Kelly.
Then we have STEM for 100.
STEM for 100. This one is what the acronym for STEM stands for.
Definitely want to see people getting this one. This was one of our giveaways. Nice. I see science, technology, engineering, and mathematics 100%. And one of the reasons that we include this is we want to make a couple easy ones, right? We need those 100 level questions. But another piece is a lot of people
those.
A lot of people don't see the interaction between STEM and esports. They think that, you have STEM, which is going to be in a classroom, you're going to do an experiment, or you're going to play with some piece of technology where you build something. And they don't see that by playing these games, we're actually developing a lot of these skills. One thing I've noticed with especially the youngest generation is that they can just pick up a computer or an iPad or a phone and they just use it. It is not something they have to learn. But even when I was a kid or going further back, we had games that taught us how to use technology. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. Kids don't need that because the games that they're playing already are teaching them that technology aspect without us having to develop specific tools. I mean, how many of us can think back and remember, okay, press this key, then press this key, make sure that your hand is resting on the other, right? We had to learn how to use keyboards. No kids learn how to use keyboards like that anymore. They just pick up a game and they start playing it. And all of a sudden, you're 3 years old. How are you using a keyboard? They're like, who doesn't know how to use a keyboard? That's weird. Because so much of STEM education is just built into games and esports. And that's just touching on the technology side of things. We have an entire course dedicated to gamer math because we believe in teaching the math skills behind all of these games, not just because we're teachers coming to esports, but also because we have very high level esports players on our team, and they could have never gotten there if they hadn't understood the mathematics behind the game so well. They hadn't studied it and been able to memorize and understand these numbers and why these numbers worked the way that they did. So when it comes to STEM, there really isn't a part of this that isn't inside esports and isn't inside gaming. It's just something that we often gloss over or don't notice that our kids are picking up so naturally.
And to add to that, Ben, I believe the statistics show that about 50% of esports players who are going to college are pursuing a STEM related major. So I think that sort of connects also to what you're saying in terms of there's a level of technological literacy that comes with playing games and esports, right? You need to manage your computer, your hardware, your software. And so it leads very closely into STEM.
Fully agreed.
Okay,
STEM 200.
STEM for 200.
Employment in computer occupations is projected to increase by this amount by 2024.
%. We got a high answer. I will say it's a little bit too high, but I like it. I like it. That would be amazing. Imagine we have how many million people in computer occupations already. We went up by 50%. That would be shocking. I would
So
love
we've
that.
got 35%, 25%, 24%.
I love to see Paul being like, well, if I just go right under, I'm the closest, right? That's great. I like that. That's exactly how I approach these games. You guys are close. You're close. It is a little bit lower than that. The answer is over 12.5%, because this is an absolutely huge career area. And I know we got some big numbers out there, but if you really think about the way that careers and career paths grow, you see a 50% growth in an existing career. Either there was some decline that just happened and we're bouncing back from it, or we've had a huge population boom to be able to hit a huge number like that. Just to put things a little bit more in context, something like 12.5% is over double what most careers could even expect or even hope to achieve. I mean, this is an extraordinarily huge percentage just at the 12.5% mark. And that's because every company has become a technology company. It doesn't matter if you're Dunkin' Donuts or if you're Ralph Lauren or any of these companies that you would say, you know, they're in the food industry, they're in the fashion industry. All of them are technology companies at this point. They have people managing their social media. They have people creating websites. They have people uploading onto these sites. They have people actually doing data analytics using the web, right? We have all this Google data mining, all of those things. Every company has become a technology company, which means that if you go into a computer occupation, it doesn't matter where you want to work. You could work in any industry of your choice. They will all need somebody to run their IT. They will all need somebody to create web pages and design them and maintain them. All of these have fields for people who are going into computer occupations. So if going into computer science or computer occupation is something that a student has an interest in, it doesn't matter where they want to do this. No matter what, if that is something that they're interested in, they will not only find a job, but they will find a high-paying job in a competitive market of their choice. Technology really, really is the future of the industry.
Thank you, Ben. Next category, anybody? Maybe we could hit a high one. Any
No, people don't like high ones. They're scared of those.
any 400, 500s in chat? By the numbers.
By the numbers 500. She's going big.
This number was the estimated value of the global esports industry in 2020.
I've seen some people guess huge numbers and tiny numbers here. Curious, what do you guys think? Any guesses? 1 billion. Oh, that is so incredibly close. I love it.
It is.
Now, I will say this is back in 2020. So this was at during pandemic. This is when things were really kicking off. Nowadays, it's actually an even bigger number by a huge amount. But you guys were really, really close with that. So I want to give it to you. It was over 900 million. So just shy of that 1 billion mark. And what we saw is esports started kicking off, back in the early mid 2000s was when esports started becoming a term, started becoming this concept. By the teens of the 2000s, it started getting a little bit bigger. People were like, oh, wow, there's some traction here. There's something happening. But it wasn't huge. And then by 2020 is when things really hit that spike on the graph. And we saw things skyrocket up. So 2020, we went up to this almost 1 billion mark. And now we're well over the 2 billion. I mean, it just keeps moving higher and higher. We are seeing investors just pump money into esports because they see how much is coming out of it. So when we say that esports is a large market, we don't mean, there's a couple $1 million in it. We mean there's a couple $1 billion in it. And this is just started. This is just getting on its growth cycle. So when students say that, oh, I might have an interest in going into esports, we want to encourage that because this is now the fastest growing market that we have seen since television. And it's actually well surpassed the television market at this point. Television and newspapers and radio, you combine all of those, we're not even close to what esports is currently at. And like I said, this is just at the start of the growth cycle. So we're seeing that this is something that students can go into and not only find a career that they might enjoy, but find a career that they might prosper in. Ooh, somebody
Well
already
said.
going for our next one.
That was a quick one.
Careers for 300.
Ooh, I think I hit the wrong one. Who's hiring for 300? This person is responsible for providing live commentary during esports tournament matches, often gaining introductory skills from arts and AV pathways in secondary education. Esports commentary. And then we'll go back and we'll hit esports careers 300.
No, ESPN.
ESPN.
I like it.
There we go, Lindsay.
Lindsay has it.
I love it. This is called a shoutcaster. And we normally call these commentators when we think of sports. And when we think of commentators, there's really two types. We have a color commentator and we have a play-by-play. Play-by-play are the people who are very excited. They don't stop talking. They have that like kind of epic voice. Like that voice when you hear it. That's what we think of when we say shoutcaster. These are the people in esports who are doing that play-by-play. They are constantly in your ear. They're excited. They're getting everybody hyped up. And you even have this kind of aspect of, you're not paying attention to the screen. You actually can see and visualize that image of what's going on in your head because of how much they're saying and how much they're describing what's happening. And one of the things I love about shoutcasting, just as a career itself within esports, is that shoutcasters actually generally make more money than pro players do. This is a steady career with a salary, and the more that you do it, the more that you get your name out there, and all of a sudden you start building a following, you start building some fame, and well, that salary just keeps going up because people want you. They say, oh, well, I saw them on this other broadcast. They were really good. I want them on mine. And all of a sudden you start getting more and more attention. So when I think of different careers in esports, well, I should say when other people think of different careers in esports, they usually think of pro players and content creators. But me personally, I think of shoutcasters. Those are the people who are on the screen. Those are the people that I'm always listening to and hearing. And they're the ones making the biggest impression on me, especially because I love the kind of way that as you go through different years within the same esports, you'll still have some of those famous shoutcasters who've been with you from the start. And you start kind of building that relationship with them. Like, oh, that person's going to be there. And that you really like listening when they're on that. Shoutcaster, one of my absolute favorite esports careers.
And I think something that's really awesome about shoutcasters is that they all sort of start off in the same place, which is like providing commentary over more local matches, right? Or even just friendly matches or within a league. And I think that this is something that anybody can start practicing and doing, right? As long as there's a match that's on a screen, you can just practice doing shoutcasting even with yourself, right? It's something that you can develop that skill immediately. And we have lots of students within our own programs that provide shoutcasting and commentary over the league matches to practice themselves and for capstones, and they can even earn credit for doing projects like these.
I think you had actually hit the right one, Rich. Just we hadn't I hadn't put the right name in that. I had the wrong name. We're all good.
Gamerisms 200.
Oh, I love gamerisms.
This term in gaming refers to additional content that can be purchased for a game after it has already been released. This is another acronym.
A mod. Oh, I like it.
Close.
Yeah. Sometimes mods can fit into this category, although I will say a lot of the time mods are free. Not all of the time. Like there are people who charge for mods, but usually I find that those are free.
And this specific question is referring to something by the company that they release themselves. And I see we have it in chat.
Love it. Nice job, Lindsay. It is a DLC or downloadable content. And this is something that we often actually don't find in esports. This is usually not there. There's a lot of microtransactions. But usually this is more reserved for games, and I will say even a little bit older games nowadays. DLCs were really common as a way of a producer or a game designer being able to put out a game that isn't completed yet. It's not completely done, because they wanted to say, hey, we have a certain amount of this that's ready for the public, but we want to make more. We want to expand. We want to release the second season. We want to release the sequel, but we want it to be in the game itself. And so they would release this downloadable content that you could then purchase and add on to the game itself. And this was a really interesting thing within esports and within gaming, because it was leading to people spending a lot more money on games than they initially thought they would. It used to be, big title would release, it'd be $60, and then it would have 2, 4, 6 DLCs that were each $30, and all of a sudden that money starts adding up. That's a little bit old now. That isn't really the case anymore. Esports have become a lot more inexpensive and a lot cheaper to get into. In fact, most esports nowadays are completely free and they have no DLCs. The only things that you have to pay for are usually some type of battle pass system, which basically is a way of saying as much as the more that you play, the more you can unlock some rewards. And those rewards are almost always cosmetic. So, a new outfit for your character, or maybe a dance that it'll do, like an emote, or maybe some new music that'll be in the background of your game. But, some little quality of life update, but not something that's going to make the gameplay better or more competitive. And so we've seen this shift, which has been amazing for us as educators, but also for gamers in general, because esports have started becoming free. And that kind of ability to enter the space has just gotten so much easier. So I absolutely love to actually see the decline of the DLC and to see it fading a little bit into the background as we enter more of the free-to-play era. This is great for our kids and it's great for our schools.
Next up.
Ooh,
Name that game.
Name that game.
I love the big numbers. I get to have fun with the big numbers.
This game was the first esport to make it onto television in 2006, airing on the USA Network.
Like I said, esports started kind of kicking off in the 2000s, although even I wasn't aware of that back then. It was still a little bit small, but it started the snowball effect. Any guesses of what games might have been around? Oh man, over 15 years ago at this point.
Halo.
Nicely done. That is the correct. Wow, I'm impressed. Halo 2. And this was really exciting. All of a sudden, this thing that had just been, online a little bit. Some people were playing in their own homes. All of a sudden it was on TV. It's like, oh my gosh, this is getting legitimate. This is getting big. This is getting exciting. And I love to see this because Halo was an amazing game back in the day. I used to love playing that one. But B, it starts getting that public traction. And that's actually what really defines the distinction between esport and game. And most people, they don't know, what's the line? They go, oh, well, an esport is one of those games that was made to be competitive. And that's not wrong, but it's not the whole picture. It is true that you can design games to definitely not be esports. You make a single player game, it's not going to be an esport, no chance. But you actually can't design an esport to be an esport. It doesn't work that way. Instead, you have to design a game, and if that game has a competitive format, then it has the potential to become an esport. But that potential actually has nothing to do with the game itself. It has to do with the community around it. It has to do with the popularity of it. And so as we see games shift from a hobby or just a normal game into the category of esport, it has to do with competitive structure. Are there tournaments built around this game? Are there leagues? Is there a world champion? Can you actually have a career competing in this title? And that's what we see as a game starts shifting from just a game to becoming an actual full-on esport. And Halo 2 was one of those games that helped start this whole movement for us. And I will say, esports did start before this. Halo 2 wasn't the first esport, but it was one of the first ones to legitimize it for the rest of them and to pave the road for what was to come. And it took a while, right? It's over 15 years later, but here we are. Esports is one of the biggest industries in the world, and it is by far the fastest growing one. So I will always give a little bow down to Halo 2 for helping us get that ball rolling.
I love that Lindsay brought in her teenager to help out too.
And for anybody that does know their esports history, we do have to give a nod to Quake as well. By the numbers, 200.
That's our first one in here.
According to Pew Research, this percentage of teens play video games.
It's only a couple percent. It's small, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is where we can get the big numbers in.
3%, something like that, right?
78%. 73.
It's a little bit higher.
62.
Y'all underestimate all these teenagers.
If it helps out, the statistic for percent of teenagers that played games yesterday was 50%, according to Pew Research.
Ooh, 81, getting closer.
65.
I think we'll call it with Paul being closest. I like,
Oh, 92.
Right at the end, Kelly is the closest. It is over 90%. Esports aren't this thing that some kids are into and some kids aren't. And it's, kind of a give or take. Maybe they like the sports, maybe they don't like the sports, maybe they like to dance, maybe they don't like to dance, maybe they're an actor. No, everybody plays video games. This is almost all kids are into this. Actually, a lot of adults are into this too. This is something that has really not just taken our country, but the world. And everybody is interested in playing these things because they're fun, they're interactive, they're engaging in a way that other media just can't quite compete with. And this has to do with a lot of the different distinction between a passive audience and an active audience. You watch TV, you listen to the radio, you listen to a podcast, you're a passive audience, you're intaking information. But when you're playing a game, you're an active audience. This is much closer to playing a board game at home or playing a sport, but it's all of them in one, because you can play slower paced games that are more like board games online. And those are a ton of fun and they hit that audience. I know I used to play solitaire every day. That was great, but I was playing it on my phone, so it counted as a video game. But there's also the highly competitive ones that are very similar to traditional sports. I was a very big racquetball and basketball player. And so when I started getting into esports really heavily, I played a lot of Fortnite because that was the most like active video game that I could find. And that one always got my blood pumping. It got me exciting. And there's these types of games and video games that are able to hit each different audience type. Do you want something that's a little bit slower? Do you want to be that solitaire player where you're playing by yourself and you can pick it up and put it down whenever you want? I know Rich was telling me he likes to play chess online and it'll take like one move a day. Like that move's so slow for me, I could never do. But there are people who like that style. But then there's also people like me who they just want like to be completely engaged in the moment, nothing else that they can pay attention to. Your wife walks in the room. She's like, hey, I had a question for you. Like, no, not yet. Need to finish this thing that I'm doing real quick. Like you don't have the time to be able to do both of those at once. We have games for those types of people too. And so because video games is so diverse, we see it being able to hit all different types of audiences. And because of that, we can harness it. We can use this power and help it become an educational resource rather than just a pastime. And that's a lot of what we do at Mastery Coding is we are able to harness this passion that people and students have already.
Absolutely. Very well said, Ben. And I think on that note, it is time for our final Jeopardy question, which is under the topic of Mastery Coding. This is what the initials USAEL stand for.
Even harder than the 500s. Any guesses? I've heard some good ones for this before. Ooh.
Nailed it.
Just
Teenagers
barely.
coming in clutch. We have the United States Academic Esports League. And this is the new offering that Mastery Coding has in collaboration with a sister company. We partnered with a company called Rally Cry, which besides having their own hugely impressive name, I mean, they work with the Army, they work with some of the biggest school districts in the country. They also come from a company called TESPA. And TESPA was the largest collegiate league in the country. So not only do they already have huge clients that they're working with, but they come from a background of working with some of the most competitive leagues and competitive colleges in the country who are then offering these scholarships, which is why the high schools are into it. And when the high schools get into it, we get the middle schools, and we all see this trickle-down effect. So TESPA actually helped start this entire trickle-down effect. And we were so excited to be able to partner with them. They also have people from Riot, who's one of the biggest game publishers in the world. They have people from Blizzard, another one of the biggest game publishers in the world. These are really impressive people, and we're always excited whenever we get to chat with them. And so we all came together and we said, well, we see a lot of leagues out there in the world right now. And one thing that is really missing is that these leagues have this kind of mantra that they go back and forth on. It's play, compete, win a prize, play, compete, win a prize. And that's their cycle. It's just this kind of 3-step process over and over and over. And there's value in that. I don't want to say there isn't, because in a lot of traditional sports, you just compete. It's just, an after-school thing. Maybe you go to your community center and you get to play on a league basketball team. I remember doing that as a kid, and it was a lot of fun. But I could have gotten more value out of it if I was learning how to connect this over to my academics as well. And so when we created the USAEL, the real big focus, and you'll see this even in our logo, was on academic. Because we wanted to make sure that we offered curriculum for the students and for the teachers, as well as the ability for them to play and have the ability to compete and earn prizes. We know that's kind of the carrot that gets a lot of students really into it. Right? They want to play, they want to compete, they want that environment. But we wanted to make sure that we were approaching this holistically, that we were not just building better gamers, but that we were building better people. And so we have SEL-based lessons, we have STEAM-based lessons, and all of these connect into the esports that the students are already super into, right? Over 90% of kids are playing these games. So we should use that statistic. We should use that power and have them learn something when they don't even realize they're learning it, right? They think that they're just learning how to get better at the game. And meanwhile, we're teaching them crucial math skills. We're teaching them crucial teamwork skills that'll be fundamental for them outside of school. This will help them in their interpersonal relationships. This will help them in their careers, because all of a sudden they become better communicators. They become better people. And so I absolutely love that we've been able to do this. It's been a ton of fun to partner and build this with people who are so involved in the competitive aspect of things, because our team, we're so involved on the education and the curriculum side. And so we've been able to really merge these two amazing different ways of thinking and create this new thing from it. We even have this really cool thing that I wish I had access to when I was a teacher or when I was a student, called Meet the Pros, where you can actually go in and have webinars with people in different careers in esports and hear about their experiences and how they got there and what they do and what this is like. And it helps so much to be able to get an idea of, well, what do you want to go into? What's an actual career advice that you can receive? And I actually want to toss this over to Rich. He's going to be able to walk us through a little bit of what one of these curriculums that we offer looks like.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. So here we see that one of the curriculum that is included in the USAEL is what's called the Career Explorations in Esports course. And this is a middle school aligned wheel course where students will explore a different career in esports each week. So we have it broken up by week. And what's really exciting is that, yes, we do have pro player in there, but we try and hit all the orbital career. So as Ben was saying, most people think about the player when it comes to esports, but we don't just talk about the player. We talk about broadcasting, marketing, analysts, all of these what we call orbital careers that help support the players and the esports industry. So this is a little bit of how we break it down on a week by week basis. We'll introduce the career. We have a meet the professional day where you have an interview with somebody in that specific career, and you can learn a little bit about the day in the life. Wednesday is focused all on skills, so hard skills, soft skills, and what it really takes to do that profession. Thursday, we go into the pathways forward, so common degrees, recommended colleges, some orgs that we can highlight that are good to work for. And then Friday, we have a debate about a contested topic in that specific field. And up at the top there, you can see the different esports careers that we explore in this course. And as an example, for the game developer topic, which is topic 3 there, the debate for that day is whether or not games are art. Right? And we provide both pro and con arguments and have the students sort of duke it out on their beliefs. So that's a little preview of the career explorations course, but we also want to give you a preview of our up and coming course. And Ben sort of hinted at this a little bit in some previous slides, but we've seen that the NAPE scores, which is the nation's report card, and mathematics have been dropping, right? They've been lowering, and that's as a result of lower student engagement and the pandemic and these types of things. But we've come up with what we believe to be a solution to help. And that is with gamer math. And this is how we can use today's most popular video games as a vehicle to teach standards-based mathematic instruction. So if we can, again, meet the students where they're at and teach them these math skills without even realizing that they're really doing math, again, it can help the students out in terms of getting them more engaged. And also, the classic math question is, when am I ever going to use this, right? Well, you're going to use this in your favorite video games, whether you know it or not, right? And a little bit of an example of this here. Here's Rocket League field from above, which is basically soccer with rocket-powered cars, right? Very easy to understand. But the idea here is that we can teach the concept of ratios and make a meaningful connection to the game of Rocket League, right? We don't want to just skin math by putting the name esports on it. We want it to be a meaningful connection for the student, and we want them to be able to get better as they are learning, get better in the game as well as mathematics. So in this example, right, we're looking at 1, 2, 3 players that are attacking the ball right now. But the question is, what is the ratio of attacking players to defending players on the orange team? We have 1, 2, 3 attacking, and we have 0 defending in the net. So the ratio of attacking players to defending players is 3 to 2. And in Rocket League, this is what's called an overcommit. And it's really dangerous. If you have all your players moving forward and going on offense, then you have no one defending if the ball gets hit towards your side of the court. So again, in Rocket League, this is called an overcommit. But if we put this in the concept of math, this is a bad ratio of attacking players to defending players, right? So this is an example of how we can make meaningful connections to what the students are playing and help them sort of learn both at the same time. And here's, I won't read on the left what's included in that gamer math curriculum, but on the right, you can see these are some of the games that we are targeting, again, popular within the age bracket of middle school students, and all school appropriate, of course. And we can also see the or the mathematics standards that we've connected to these different games. So that's a little preview, but I hope you've all enjoyed this presentation for today. I think we might have some time here for questions, but thank you so much for watching.
If you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat or put them in the Q&A, and we'll be happy to answer.
Thanks, folks. I have a question for you about on the instructional side of this. Since this is relatively new, and this looks like a fairly robust curriculum, who is it in schools that's teaching this? Are people going, where's the teaching certification, I guess, that matches it up? Is it, I mean, there's a logical connection certainly to a math person, but, you know, who is it that would be the most logical individuals that would be providing that type of curriculum?
Yeah, one thing that I can say is that we do have very robust professional development for anybody that is assigned to leading or facilitating one of our programs. And I do use the word facilitation because we do have our own proprietary LMS. So all of the curriculum content is uploaded to our platform, and much of it is video-based instruction. So whoever is assigned to leading or facilitating this course content, they're basically shepherding the students through the content that is online, right? Already video based, and that allows for more personalized learning from the students because they can go back, they can fast forward, rewind, add closed captioning, those types of things, and it really takes the onus off of the facilitator from having to be the subject matter expert. And that's true not only for our esports courses, but also for our coding courses and our game development courses, the sort of video-based instruction model.
And I will say, to kind of answer just directly which professional within the school building would be best suited for this, there actually isn't a good answer to that, because it shouldn't just be the math teacher, or it shouldn't just be the ELA teacher. It should be the teacher who's comfortable with computers and the teacher who's comfortable with technology. So if you have a technology teacher already at your school, that is kind of the natural idea, but I know not every school has that. So then it becomes, well, ask the teachers, hey, do any of you play games? Because actually the number is pretty high of how many adults play games, and they don't need to be professional players. So long as they have introductory understanding of what esports are and how games work, then all of a sudden they can be able to, like Rich was saying, facilitate this type of curriculum where really the onus isn't on them. But the idea shouldn't be to find, there's just one subject matter teacher who's best equipped. It should be talking to your team and seeing which of your team members are best equipped.
And would you say that at this point, most students are coming to school and they've got those gaming skills, I guess, at this point, because they have picked it up on their own in things that they've been pursuing that have not been in a specific classroom setting or in a course, but they something because they like it and they've been engaged in it, that they, so we're not teaching them keyboarding skills anymore. They're coming to us with that. So would you say that at this point, particularly at middle level, we are at the stage where most of those kids are coming with that type of, they've got that skill base already?
Generally, yes. The kind of base level concepts, base level skills to access the technology and access the games, they'll usually have that. I have had a couple of elementary schoolers that I've worked with that I did have to teach them, how to properly hold a keyboard, that type of thing, or a mouse, because they had been used to an iPad or a phone. So they knew how to use the technology, just not necessarily the peripheral devices associated with a computer. But I mean, those were even early I'm talking second graders, not somebody who's in middle school. It does 100% vary on the socioeconomic status of the district. If you have a higher socioeconomic status, they're most likely going to be more comfortable with technology. But in general, most kids are having a lot of this experience already. I will say one distinction that I do think is relevant there is I actually just had a presentation at a school this last week. And I spoke a lot about how the way that we think about playing games can really affect what we gain from them. And that if we set goals and set time limits for ourselves to achieve those goals, this is really valuable for us as people, because that's how we should always approach our lives. But B, it becomes a more valuable play session. And I remember there was this one girl, she walked away and she's like, wow, I never thought of setting a goal for myself when I play games. And this was like a groundbreaking idea to her. And I heard from one of her teachers that she's been using that recently. I mean, this was last week, so recently is a couple of days ago. And that it's been something that's been really impactful for her. So not only are we seeing a lot of those technology skills, but we're actually seeing these skills that then have effects on their academics, have effects on their personal lives. And it really does create this kind of amazing snowball effect in their lives.
And I will say that's one of the huge value adds in bringing something like a structured program like this to your school, right? The students are doing the gaming anyway, but we can teach them how to do it in a way that's purposeful. And that's, again, as Ben was saying, it's a life skill, something they're going to take home, and they'll have less zoning out zombie game sessions if we can help them to learn how to make gaming into something positive or goal oriented or meaningful in their life.
What is it, like 21 days to build a habit, right? Well, if they're gaming every day, that'll be pretty quick.
But I think that is also one of the key points, that there are some life skills along the way. So in addition to being able to do that goal setting piece, but time management can become a great issue. I know I am certainly not into the sophisticated aspect of gaming, but I do play solitaire on my phone a lot. And I have to say, wait a minute, you can't sit here and do this for 2 hours and a half. You've got other things you need to do. So I think that too then becomes a good lesson for kids to learn in terms of managing their own time as they're setting their goals, and not spending their entire time playing the game.
That's exactly right. Yeah, time management, but also emotional management as well, right? A lot of young players might get upset or angry at the game, but as they get better and they improve, they'll realize that their gameplay will actually suffer if they're getting so emotional or angry or upset. So they have to learn how to regulate their own emotions and do what we call as a mental reset, right? Sort of breathing and it's resetting between matches so as not to tilt, which is another gamerism, and not get upset, right?
I love how Rich had this amazing takeaway from that. And for me, all I could think was, I'm not the only solitaire player here.
Well, that's great information. Any other questions from our folks that are here in the audience? Well, we certainly appreciate you taking the time. And as you know, this is recorded and it will be available on our website. So people that were not able to join us are going to be able to go and to access that. And I think get a good sense of what it is that you have to offer, and that they begin to understand that it's more than just the gaming aspect, that there's a lot more that goes to this. For those of you participants that are with us, if you are interested in getting Act 48 credit for tonight's webinar, you will be getting a link that will have an evaluation. And you can fill out that evaluation, submit that by this Friday at 9 p.m. And at that point, we will be able to process your Act 48. PAMLE is in the process of reestablishing our webinar series. And we do have 2 additional webinars scheduled before the end of the school year. They will be on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. On Tuesday, April the 18th, we're going to be looking at finishing the school year strong. How do you celebrate? How do you keep things engaged? How do you keep kids going until the end of the school year? And we're looking at that to be an open forum. People come and be able to share your ideas and perhaps come away with some things that you can go back and implement in your own building. And then our May webinar, we'll be talking about planning for the next school year. What are you doing? How are you beginning to set some goals? What are you looking to do in terms of potential school improvement? How are you going to make next school year even better than what this one was? As hopefully we begin to settle back into a more normal school year. So we have a lot to share with you those next couple of those webinars, and we hope that you will join us. So Paul, I'll turn it back over to you to close us out.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you to Mastery Coding, Coach Ben and Rich and Angie. We really appreciate you joining us this evening. This is groundbreaking information for a lot of folks. And I know that our attendees this evening, there were other people that we expected to be here, but it's going to be on the website. And I'm sure they picked up a lot of good ideas from your sharing tonight. And again, to Eastern University, Kelly and Diana, thank you so much for being here as our back folks, people who really made this happen for us. So on behalf of PAMLE, we thank you for joining us, and we hope that we see you at the next webinar. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.